Dun,
All
dun.
right, you guys are live.
Well, welcome to the show, everybody. Want to send out first a big thank you to our patrons who supported us at patreon.com to help us build this new studio. It's all you guys. So
Welcome.
microphone stand, I mean, everything's you guys. So just for your generous gifts there. And anyone who wants to continue to support us to help us grow and spread the message, patreon.com/Jason Everett. You can join the community there. And you guys just make this whole thing possible. You guys are basically our boss. So thank you guys. Tonight, usually we're taking live questions, Q&A, but a high school theology teacher sent us a whole list of questions from her students that we want to just rifle through in today's show. We also want to invite you in advance next Tuesday. I believe that's November 18th at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard, 11 o'clock where we're at Mountain Standard Time. We're going to be having our first ever XM Sirius Catholic Radio call-in special program show. So it's going to be a live 1 hour show on XM, the Catholic channel. Anybody's more than welcome to call in. You just call in at XM Radio Catholic Channel, 11 a.m., as I mentioned, Mountain Standard, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard, 1 hour live special program. So super excited about that. So please join us next week for that live call-in show. But today, although it is live, we're not taking any questions. We're going to rifle through as many dating, relationships, chastity questions as we possibly can from this high school theology teacher. I believe her students are having a watch party as this is going on. So hey guys, hello. Thank you for sending in the questions. So Josiah, let's just fire away and jump right in. Or Christina, any other? Ready blast off. So let's roll.
Okay, the first question is, in a world of talking stages and low commitment, how can we be intentional with relationships?
Well, I would say, for one, let's say this is a girl submitting the question. If you are single, don't act like you're his girlfriend because you're not his girlfriend. If you are his girlfriend, do not behave like his wife. And if you are his wife, live as one. And you would imagine if guys would just do the same thing, how much simpler relationships would be. And so, in other words, be what you are instead of what you hope to be. And in the meantime, just pace that relationship. I heard some advice recently that sounded real smart. It said, I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but talk about the future of relationship for as long as you've been in it. So if you've been in the relationship for 2 weeks, talk about what you're going to be doing for the next 2 weeks. If you've been dating for 2 years, you better be talking about where things are going to be heading in the next 2 years. But if you've been dating for 2 weeks and you're talking about where things are going to be 20 years from now, you get a little ahead of yourself. If you've been dating a guy for 4 years and he's still talking about what you guys are going to be doing next week, you got issues there as well. And so that kind of gives you a good rule of thumb in terms of pacing that relationship, making sure you don't end up in a situationship where you don't even know what the heck you are. Like, are we dating? Well, we went on a date, but we're not dating, but we are seeing each other, but we're not a boyfriend and girlfriend. So technically we're not a boyfriend and girlfriend. I mean, but so we're like a thing. It's like, what is that? You want clarity. And so if things seem to be stuck in that gray zone, I'd recommend having like the DTR, the define the relationship conversation. Like, where are we? And sometimes it's frustrating because I think it's a guy's job to kind of explain where things are headed. And if he's not doing that, it can feel awkward for the girl to say, like, what are we? But what I think what's most important is that you not be acting out in your body or your heart what is not in correspondence with reality. And so if you're single, don't pretend like you're dating. If you're dating, don't behave like you're married.
And don't date your imagination. You should set a time limit if you are living long distance from someone, that you actually are there together dating and day in, day out to actually see what that person is really like. Because I think there's a tendency, especially with all these cyber boyfriends or just all these dating apps and things going on, you're not really dating a person. You're basically dating your phone and the texting and the conversations you're having through it, but there's not any live interactions, and that's really a problem. So just to make sure you're actually with that person.
Yeah, and the intentionality, I think, is the key, and the word that you said there in the question. Just the intentionality that at the end of the day, you are not looking for a boyfriend if you're a girl. You are looking for a husband. And so you can maybe see some guys as, oh, he's cute, he'd be fun to date. Okay, but that's not the question. Like, because the purpose of dating is to find a spouse. It's like you're getting on a road with 2 exits, breakup and marriage. And if that's the reality of dating, what's the point of committing to anybody unless you can see yourself really going the distance?
Okay.
Awesome stuff, guys. What can we do as young women? What can we as young women do now to prepare ourselves for our future husbands and family?
I would say focus on two sets of things. One would be your hopes and your dreams. Make sure you're pursuing those things now instead of making the boy your hope and your dream. That, like, what is it you want to do with your life? How do you want to improve the world? When St. Paul is talking in Corinthians, he says that the single woman is anxious about the things of the Lord, whereas the married woman is more anxious about how to please her husband. I think a lot of times we get that backwards, where before marriage we're anxious about finding a husband, and then we figure once I get him, then I'll settle down and like dive into my faith or whatever. No. Right now, as a single woman, I think it was Curtis Martin who said, don't just kind of chase after this boy or that boy. He said, look, run with all you have after God. And after a while of running, look beside you and see who's keeping up with you. That's the kind of person that you want to end up with. And so pursue your hopes, pursue your dreams. What do you want to do for a living? How do you want to, make the world a better place? Focus on that good stuff. Yeah. But then also focus on your wounds and your faults. So it's not all one or the other. Some people are like, it's all about my hopes and dreams. Other people, no, I just got to, do too much introspection. It's all about me. I got to just become so perfect. Have a balance of both of them. But spend some time over here. Like, is there stuff going on in your life right now that if you drag that stuff into a vocation, it would be toxic to the vocation. Now's the time to deal with that stuff. And it might be faults. I've been reading this inappropriate stuff or looking at these bad websites, or I'm just wasting endless amounts of time on social media. I'm really self-absorbed. I can't control my own emotions or addictions or habits. I have a total lack of ambition. Like, look at those faults and try to deal with them instead of thinking that marriage is going to be like a car wash. But then also the wounds. Sometimes stuff happens and we just kind of stuff it. I'll deal with it later. I'll just sweep it under the rug and then it'll just eventually go away. But it's almost like you're stuffing all that junk into a closet, and it's like you get more and just shut the door and throw some more in there and shut the door. And then marriage, like, it doesn't stay in there. The door is going to open and just everything's going to fall out. And so start to go through that stuff. And if it means going to counseling or to confession, just invest that work right now. And so focus on your hopes and dreams. Become the woman of your dreams if you want to attract the man of your dreams. Sarah Swafford often says, but then also focus on the hurts, on the wounds, and the faults. And I think if you invest a good amount of time in doing those things, you'll become the person that you hope to find.
Also think about, what are you doing with your time right now? Are you partying? Are you having fun? Are you just kind of building up a lot of bad mistakes, and on the weekend you're finding yourself full of regrets, or by the end of the weekend finding yourself full of regrets? And just look at how you're also spending your time, especially in high school, college right now, because that is going to prepare you. And it's awful because I did so much in high school, and it was awful because I had so many things I had to face, because you don't leave it there. It comes with you. So just like Jason said, just focus on also, if you need any healing, it's going to just change things. It's going to change everything, actually, if you focus on that. But also focus on your relationship with Jesus. It matters. It should matter more than honestly anything. And I know right now, maybe in high school, it doesn't seem like it does, but it really can set and change the course of your entire life if you put God first in your life right now and listen to those small promptings of the Holy Spirit.
What do we got next, Josiah?
Next question is it okay to bring a date that I don't really know to school dances, even if I don't plan on dating the boy? Does that objectify them or hurt their dignity?
I don't think so. And the reason, but make sure that you're just clear in regards to your intentions, because I don't think every date needs to mean that you're dating, right? You go to a dance, you can go to a dance with a friend. I went to dances in high school with girls I didn't end up dating. And it was enjoyable because there wasn't that pressure there. And there was clarity prior to the dance. So it wasn't like, is this thing going to lead to another thing? It's like, hey, we're all going out with a bunch of friends. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that there's less of an occasion of sin if you're surrounded by friends and you spend time with those good friends. And you're not just like, splitting off into these isolated, couple groups that, 11 o'clock at night, no one's around. No, spend that time in the company of others. Make sure that your intentionality is clear and you're not objectifying the other person. I think you're upholding their dignity by having clarity beforehand, keeping things simple, and enjoying the dance. Not everything needs to lead to the bedroom and need to romance and a committed romantic relationship. Like, enjoy the dance. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people don't know how to dance, and that's why it often turns sensual and bumping and grinding and all that lack of dancing. Because if a guy really knew how to do swing dancing or waltz or whatever, I think the girl would love to have him lead in that dance. And so I would try to pivot away from any type of sensual form of dancing. Doesn't need to be overly romantic. Just be clear in your intentions beforehand. And I don't think you'll be objectifying the guy in the least.
No, that was great.
Okay. What does modesty and not sinning look like at a party?
Well, I mean, what modesty is, modesty, according to Aquinas, falls under the category of temperance, which is the moderate use of a good thing. And so, can you moderately use the good thing of a party? Well, it depends on the party. Sometimes modesty would mean you don't go to that party at all. I remember Father Gus was this just saintly priest at our campus at Franciscan University, and a girl was walking out of the dorm to go to a party, and he saw her, and he said, whatever her name is, Rachel, stay home. And she's like, what? And she's like, okay. And she just turned around and walked back up at the dorm and just studied for the night. And she said, to this day, I know that if I had gone to that party and he had not intervened, something would have happened. I don't know what, but for some reason, the Holy Spirit spoke through that priest and said, you don't need to be there. And so if the party involves underage drinking, any drugs, just don't even be there. Don't say, well, I'll be a good Christian witness and I'll have water while everyone else has beer and they're smoking weed and hooking up on a lawn chair in the back seat.
It's not going to happen.
They're not going to be like, oh my gosh, look at her. She's drinking water. I shouldn't have this beer. I shouldn't be hooking up with that girl behind a plant in the backyard next to the pool. Like, wow, she's drinking water. Like, no.
Let's be honest. It happens.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're not some apostolic witness because you're not drunk out of your mind like 9 out of 10 other people at the party.
Yeah.
Don't even go to the dumb thing. In fact, maybe if you could encourage some friends, like, let's go do this other thing. I think there's a lot of people that'd rather go do something they can actually remember the next day. And not, are we really having that much fun getting drunk and doing regretful things? I think a lot of things happen at those parties that never should happen because people just want to be where the people are.
They also want it.
I don't want to be the outsider. Everybody's going to that party, so I know I probably shouldn't go, but I'm going to go because that's where everybody is.
Yeah.
But what if everybody had values or just like, no, if there's drinking and smoking weed and hooking up, like, I'm not even going to the party, and it was only 1/10 of the size, you all of a sudden remove this social pressure to have to be there. And so I would say, if you're at a party and it has that stuff, I would try to find some people and just head out. Hey, let's go to In-N-Out. Let's go wait till they announce order number 6-7, and let's all scream and throw our French fries or whatever. Like, just go do something else, right? Be the leader instead of feeling like you got to be a sheep because that's where people go, and they're doing all these horrible things. But your presence at that party is your endorsement of the party, in my opinion. The fact that you're standing there giving hours of your life or even minutes of your life to that type of environment is basically a very silent way of saying, I am in favor of whatever's happening here. Otherwise, what am I doing here?
I used to go to those parties, and I know what it's like after a football game or on the weekend. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're going to the party, you're going here, you're going there. And Josiah, you want me to do something with my mic? What do you want me to do? Because I can't read that and I can't touch it.
You guys just turn your mics down, please.
I can't.
You're peaking.
I can't.
Turn the mic. Okay, let me go.
Yeah, turn them down. Like,
it's our new set, and we have some kinks to work out here. So, is that better?
Okay. Turn them down just a little bit.
You just want to make sure.
Not to yell into them.
No problem.
Thank you.
Is that better?
Yeah, that should be way better.
Okay.
That's
Perfect.
how you know when it's live.
It's totally live. Look, I went to the parties, and one day I was in the middle of my huge conversion, right? And I was still living that lifestyle. And it was really hard because you want to be with your friends and you want to be where everybody else is, like Jason said, and you want to feel wanted. But I did go to the party, but I did something very different. I just actually sat back and I just watched like a movie. Something just said, just sit down and just watch. Don't do anything. Don't just hang out and just see what happens. And for the first time, I just sat there and everyone's like, you want this, you want that. Why don't you have this? It's not that big of a deal. And I'm like, no. And a part of me was really tempted to. But slowly as the night went on, it was just like Jason said, I know what happens. This girl went with that guy around the corner. These people are doing this. They're acting crazy like they never did before. This one's putting this in his mouth. And like 20 minutes later, it's like, he's unrecognizable, acting crazy. There's just a lot of bad, immoral things that happen at that party. This guy's cheating with this girl. I mean, there was just obviously a lot of immoral things happening. And slowly, honestly, as the night went on, it was disgusting. It was an absolutely disgusting environment. And I was kind of just shocked, like, wow, this is the life that I was living. And at the time while you're doing it, you're getting intoxicated and the night goes on and the music gets louder and everybody's getting more crazy and more wild. You kind of join in with it. And at the time you think it's fun, but then you wake up, your head hurts, you feel disgusting. You're overwhelmed with like the filth that you're feeling, at least me inside. It was awful the times I did engage in those things. And at the end, was it worth it? Is it ever worth it? If you look back in your life at the times where you were binge drinking, you were hanging out, or you were doing things where you weren't supposed to at these places, the next day, really focus on how did you feel? Like what was going on? What problems did your friends just that you and them have to deal with after you were living that lifestyle? And some of my friends are like, I think I'm pregnant. I don't know what to do. I'm so scared, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, it comes out on the rest of your life. Like everything you do right now, it matters tremendously. And it may not matter in that moment, and maybe it won't matter that week or that month, but it catches up with you eventually. And it caught up with me, and it was awful. So really think, is it really worth it? And I know there's other things that you can be doing or that maybe you want to be doing, but you don't want to be left alone. But deep down, you know what you should do and what you shouldn't do, period. I know you do. I did. Everybody did. I don't care how drunk or whatever was going on in my life. I knew deep down I shouldn't be doing that thing.
And the problem also, I should probably mention, isn't simply the fact that it's underage drinking. Because I remember when I moved to San Diego as a young adult, I was of age to drink, and some friends invited me to a bar, this club downtown San Diego. And I remember going down, and you go down underneath this building, and there's just blasting music and the bars and the drinks, and everybody's on this dance floor. And I just remember being there, and it was just so unbelievably crowded. And this lady came up to me, and she was like, just very forward, we'll just say that. And I was just like, I told my buddies, like, I'm gonna go outside for a little bit, just get a breath of fresh air. And I go outside, and you could just hear the thumping and the pounding music down there. And I'm just like, I'm not into this. And then some homeless guys were just asking me for some food. And I'm like, well, you want to get Subway over there? And they're like, yeah. Then we went over, we just got Subway together. And then we just talked for like, I don't know, 45 minutes or an hour. And I'm like, hey, well, you want to meet next week for dinner? And they're like, yeah. Then we hang out the next week. And then they ended up bringing some friends. And it started to become this weekly hangout with homeless dudes downtown San Diego. And it was just, went home, and it was just such a pleasant night. And like, I just couldn't imagine just going home and whatever that was going on, and it's stinking like that place and smelling of beer. And like, it was just like, no, it's just not the place that I wanted to be. So it isn't simply that, it's not that it's immoral to drink alcohol for an adult. It's not immoral to dance intrinsically. It's not. But at the end of John Paul II said, one must arrange one's life so that everything praises God. And so if you can praise God with a glass of wine and celebrating something, or if you're of age, great, that's fine. If you can praise God through dance, great. If you can praise God through celebrating a party, whatever, great. But just make sure that whatever you do, it's something that you could offer for God. In fact, I know one saint who said all of his actions throughout the day served one single purpose, and that was to prepare him for the next Mass that he would celebrate. Everything was directed to that. I want everything that I do simply to prepare me for my next Mass. I mean, you talk about the crystal clear orientation of all of our choices. I think to the extent that we do that, we'll find ourselves.
Cool. Good stuff, guys. Mrs. Everett, what is your favorite part of being a mom?
Honestly, all the love that my kids give me, because I don't know, sometimes you just are so hard on yourself. And for so long, I guess just, I made so many mistakes. And for so long, I felt so unlovable as a person. And after I got married and you have kids, and I don't know, just there's this love that your kids give you that you can't get just anywhere else on the planet. It's just a really special, unbelievable, just God-given love that you get from your kids. It's hard to explain, but it's just really beautiful, and it's so pure. And I think that's the thing, that love that your children and that my children give me, it's such a pure love, and it's just beautiful. So that's one of my favorite things about being a mom.
Is there anything we as Christian girls can do more to fight the objectification of women today, especially with the rise of social media?
I would say the most important step is to make sure you're not objectifying yourself. And what I mean by that is take a good look at what you're posting on social media, any profile pictures of you that you're throwing out there. I think sometimes when the world is so incredibly pornographic, we figure, well, it's not a big deal if I just throw up a bathing suit picture of me here or there, or whatever. But you don't know who's viewing that on the other side of the camera, or guys asking for pictures or things like that. It's like, don't even go there. If you don't want not only your family members to see that picture, but also your future employers, because sometimes they'll do kind of a Google image background search for like, do we want to hire this person? And if they're like, whoa, there's these pictures still floating around the internet of this person from high school, and you're applying for a job 8 years later, this stuff just sticks. And so I think that the most important thing is to make sure that you're playing the role of making sure that you're not falling into self-objectification, making sure that the way that you present your body in the world shows the world that your body's not the best thing that you have to offer. So that through the living witness of modesty in your own life, I think you're really sending an unspoken message that women are not to be objectified. And then look at the career you want to go into. Do you want to go into fashion designing? You go into theater, whatever. Take that influence as a woman of God into that particular field of study or of art or whatever, to make it more holy, to make it more noble, to make it more honorable. I think we can't just sit back and play the victim and be like, oh, I have no control over any of these things in the world. I think we have more control than we think of. I remember years ago, there was a couple girls who went into major department store. They're looking for whatever formal dresses, and they literally couldn't find anything. It was just like unbelievable in terms of like short skirts that just look like a wide belt, and the shorts, the pockets on the shorts were longer than the shorts themselves. And it was just like, we can't find anything dignified. And so they like wrote a letter to the manager, like, we are so fed up about this. And so the manager kind of invited him in, and they had this big conference, and the manager ended up hiring these women as fashion consultants for the department store of what type of clothing that they would bring in. And they were actually able to shape, and then the girls helped market it, and like, hey, this department store is actually listening to our voices. And they were able to actually change the inventory of a department store by speaking up about it. And so in business, you typically think that, okay, one letter I get represents 100 people who probably thought the same thing but didn't bother to say it. And so if you've got some people saying, no, we would really like to have a little bit more fabric on our outfits than you guys are offering us, at the end of the day, they speak one language, and it's money. And if they know that there's a market of girls who are actually looking for something that's a little bit less revealing, I think they'll offer it. But you got to speak up or you'll never be heard.
Okay, I took my 13-year-old daughter to go get some like church dresses. And I went to 5 different stores with her. Really good, beautiful, reputable stores, okay, that most of you probably shop at. I could not find a modest church dress for her. And I'm not trying to make her look like she's like living on the farm on some like Ohio or something,
What's wrong with farms in Ohio?
Nothing's wrong with farms in Ohio.
Yeah, what's wrong with Ohio?
I'm sorry.
Josiah's from Ohio. Josiah was raised in. Weren't you?
I knew I would.
I
get
was
in
raised in
trouble for it.
Indiana. I
You
am-
know what I mean? Just like those like long dresses and just like, oh man, she needs some help kind of thing. You all know what I'm talking about. Regardless.
Long dresses are beautiful, but she's talking about like shapeless plaid ankle length jumpers.
Thank you. He articulated that way better than I just did. And I just got myself in a lot of trouble. Whatever. I took her shopping, and it was the most frustrating experience for both of us. And we ended up, I wanted to get her like maybe 5 new dresses for church, just different things, right? And she's getting older, and it was her birthday, 13. We left with one, and it was like on some sales rack in the corner. And she looks really cute in it. It's beautiful, but it was awful. So that's still a problem right now. So I do feel for all of you girls out there, but there are some really good places I know online. And there's none of those shops maybe here that we can physically go to. But sometimes you want to physically go to the store, and you want to try on the dresses, and you want to buy them there. But it was very disheartening to go there and just have such a hard time for your 13-year-old daughter. It was frustrating. So
Yeah. But thank you for making the effort. I think when women do dress modestly, they're not complimented enough. When I talk to guys, I try to tell them, like,
Yeah.
you see a woman dress modestly, like, compliment her. Not for the sake of, hitting on her or whatever, but just tell her that she looks beautiful. And like that dress looks really nice.
Gonna be like, maybe he's my husband.
Yeah.
Maybe
Just
no.
take yourselves emotionally there. But just thank you, women,
Problem.
for making the effort to dress more modestly. I mean, it's really beautiful. I remember I had to chaperone one of the high school kids' dances a couple years ago. And the girls walking in there is like, man, it would be so easy to be remarkably dignified. Just one girl, if she had actually wear a dress that was truly classy, would stick out in such an amazingly beautiful way. But I think they're just kind of afraid to. But because everyone else just kind of look like clones wearing these little outfits made of like saran wrap. And it's just like, can you leave a little room in the outfit? And it's, God love them, because a woman deserves respect no matter what she chooses to wear. But the point is that I just want to thank the women that are making the effort to go to that extra store or two, or maybe getting it online and having to return a dress or two. It's a gift to your brothers in Christ. It helps us to remember your dignity and how you deserve to be loved as so much more than just some collection of body parts. And so just as a brother to a sister, thank you for making that effort, because the virtue of modesty, according to John Paul II, is the guardian of love.
Yeah.
Good stuff, guys. This one might be short because you kind of started it, but
Okay.
What is the best way to incorporate modesty in a culture full of immodesty? Where do we start?
Well, so just pay attention to how you dress and how you dance. I remember speaking at I mentioned this during my chastity talks, that I was at an all-girls high school in Louisiana. It's about 1,400 girls. And I asked the girls, like, how many of you girls think, just by a show of hands, that if you met a guy today who had self-control, he's a gentleman, pure in the way he talked about girls and treated them, how many think finding that virtue of chastity in a guy today, that it would make him undeniably more attractive? 1,400 girls put their hands up. I said, okay. Then I went next door to the all-guys school, 1,200 boys. And I told the fellows the girls said, and one guy put his hand up and he said, well, I don't believe you. And I said, well, I promise all the girls have their hands up. He goes, no, I believe you. He said, what I'm trying to say is, like, we don't believe them. I said, why not? And he's like, look, you're telling us that they want us to be all innocent and pure, but they're going to dress like that at our dances. They're going to dance like that at our dances. You're telling me she wants me to treat her like a princess, but they're going to act like that on the weekends. He's like, we don't take them seriously. They don't take themselves seriously. And it is hard to argue with that guy's point, but I know for the women, it's frustrating, because you go to the store and everything they sell you is low cut, bare belly, bare back, some slit up to your armpit. I know it isn't easy, but again, the perseverance of trying to find an outfit that's modest. And if you look at your closet and you're trying stuff on and you're like, is this too short? Is this too tight? Is that
Right
too...
there.
You already answered your own question.
Yes, you did.
Because you wouldn't ask yourself that question if it was modest. It's not like you're reading the Bible and you're like, is this okay to read? It's like, no, your conscience is totally at rest. There's no problems there.
Yeah.
And so just be aware of the fact that if you're questioning yourself, you've probably already answered yourself.
We had this candlelight for mass at the parish we go to, and there were a lot of young adults. It was unbelievable. The church, it was pretty packed. It was shocking, but there were a couple girls that were kind of in the back that came in. It was great that they were there, but you knew they were just kind of looking around, and a lot of the women were dressed modestly. It was great. And their skirts were incredibly short, and just like going up to communion, you could tell they were like, she was like kept pulling it down. Yeah, tug of war. And the whole time she's, and looking around, and it's like she couldn't take in the beauty almost of the mass and where she was at, because she had to be so, just focused on how uncomfortable she was, and just kind of I need to cover this, I need to pull this down maybe just one more inch, and she was just so uncomfortable, and you can just see it. And I'm sure when she looked in the mirror and she walked out the door, she was like, okay, I'm looking really cute, and she felt pretty confident. And then she went there and it was like, oh man, something's not right. Like deep down, she knew something wasn't right. Something was a little off. Like she shouldn't have been wearing that. And half the time when you're doing that, and when I used to dress like that, it wasn't honestly for me. I was dressing like that because I wanted attention. I wanted to feel pretty. And if I was getting that attention and the looks, and even though it was the wrong attention, there was something that it was filling in me of an insecurity that I am good enough, I'm wanted, I'm loved, I'm pretty, or I'm sexy, or trying to do this, when deep down, that's not what I really wanted to be loved for. That's not the attention I really wanted, but it almost filled this insecurity, like, okay, I am pretty enough. Okay, I am good enough. And I was getting the wrong attention. I was doing it the wrong way. And maybe not all of you are doing it for that reason, but there's a lot of brokenness behind the way women dress, let's be honest. And it kind of comes out in that.
One last thought in terms of helping with the problem of objectification of women is, don't date a guy who expects you to be his chastity cop. I think a lot of Christian guys are raised with this idea that it's their job to stop when she says no. And so they can try whatever they want, and as long as she says no, that's where they stop. And if she says yes, then we're good to go. But the problem is that this places the entire burden of the innocence of the relationship on the woman, that she has to be the conscience of man, and that she's the one who blows the whistle and things are getting too hot. She's got to say no. But that puts her in such an uncomfortable spot. It's like, okay, so I'm the one who has to tell you to behave, to keep your hands to yourself, to stop doing this. To me, it's just such an unhealthy dynamic, because chastity is difficult enough when you both agree with it. It's a lot more difficult when you're the one who is on board with it and he's the one who thinks he can just try whatever, and then you're just going to tell him when you think he's gone too far. You want a guy who, when you're tempted, he can be strong. That way there's more of a partnership in pursuit of purity, instead of you being the chastity cop and telling him that he needs to behave. To me, it's just not a healthy dynamic. And so hold out for a guy who can see a woman's dignity even when she can't see it herself. You want a man who has his own morals instead of one who just simply tolerates yours.
I want to address the ladies right now. I really think, let me put it this way. If you have to dress a certain way in order to keep and please your boyfriend, and if you don't continue to dress that way, and he won't like you or want to be with you or want to take you out, or is like, what are you wearing? Why don't you go change? Or, if you are going out and maybe you're not dressing sexy enough or like cute enough, or that is a problem. And that is not okay on any level. And you don't need to object. Like, you just don't need to put yourself in that position. And that guy is a loser and you need to get rid of him. Okay? Straight up, just straight up. I'm going to say it.
Yeah, you really don't need a fashion consultant, I don't think. A guy that's going to be telling you.
Because some women do that and it's awful. And then they have these expectations on them that are just awful and unrealistic, and you shouldn't objectify yourself like that.
Because if he's doing that, I mean, let's say you're dressing immodestly and he's calling you to be more modest. That could be a different situation.
Different. That's not what I'm saying.
So that's not like a control freak boyfriend, I don't think. But in the opposite effect, if he's enticing you to be less modest for his own gratification,
and to show you off like you're some trophy out there, like, ooh, look who I'm dating. Look, like, that's just not right.
Would you agree, though, that most girls, when they dress for themselves and other girls more than they dress for guys?
Absolutely. In high school, it's all a competition. Yeah. It's all about a competition and wanting.
So it's not so much I want to put on this outfit to seduce a man. Usually that's not really motivating.
But you also, there's this, like, I don't know, there's this way of thinking where I wanted to be sexy. I wanted the attention. We already talked about that. There is that level.
So it's probably more of a carelessness.
Carelessness, maybe.
Than an intentionality.
But I'm talking about if you are dating someone who expects that of you, it's not okay. The guy's a loser. Sorry. You got to get rid of him.
Agreed.
Cool.
Josiah. Cool.
I have to put a single word in that I can search later in my notes for clipping. Do men realize the damage they cause when they become solely lustful towards women and objectify them? More so does it cross their minds that their behavior can be hurtful or repulsive?
Some do, some do not. I remember speaking to a high school guy who was coming up to me after the chastity talk, and he was not living a good life. He was really just one toxic relationship after the next. It just got so physical with these girls, and then he'd break things off, and it was just this pattern. And I asked him, I said, I want you to think about all the girls that have come into your life. When they leave your life, are they better off after having known you or worse? And he's like, yeah, I guess I destroyed all of them. And you could see in his eyes, he was just like imagining them like this trail of just damaged and discarded girls left in his wake. And it was like hitting him for the first time, like, holy cow, every woman that comes into my life is worse off after having known me. And he felt very convicted, and I really sensed he wanted to change his life. And I don't think he was doing it out of like, I want to intentionally hurt these girls. Yeah. It was, again, more of a carelessness. It just was part of the game. They're playing with me, I'm playing with them. because she might be using, I might be getting used.
Doesn't
I might
matter
be
right
using
now,
her. Like
right?
we're just all living the, living
Yeah.
the dream. We're just having fun. And he just wasn't really thinking, okay, what is the long-term emotional, psychological, and spiritual effect I'm having on these young women? He was just living in the moment. He like couldn't care less what happened yesterday, because maybe, and a lot of these guys, they get used too. They get their hearts broken along the way. They get cheated on. I mean, I meet lots of high school guys who are just devastated of these girls that cheat on them with their friend, and like I thought she was going to be the one for me, and then I found out that she's doing this with that guy behind my back for 6 months, and like they're just torn to pieces. And a lot of times they're just like, okay, get in the game and just use or get used. So you might as well just go roll with the punches and just do your own thing. And
Like I'll hurt them first.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
before
hurt
they
them
hurt
first
me.
before they hurt me.
Yeah.
And they're not really thinking like I want to hurt. It's more I don't want to be hurt. And so you're kind of off. Like sometimes a woman will do that, offering the guy what he's least likely to reject, namely the physical. I remember a buddy of mine dated a girl at San Diego State University, and he's a good dude. And they started dating, and then she broke up with him like out of the blue, and he was like really looking for answers. And she said, sorry, she said, I just date jerks. And that was her reason for dumping the guy, is because he was too good. And she could have had such an awesome guy, but she didn't think she deserved it. And so I think there can be a lot of dynamics going on other than he's intentionally hurting her. I think he's just clueless, self-absorbed, immature, and unprepared to date. They say, do not hang your coat on a hook that cannot bear the weight. In other words, you place your heart in the hands of a 16, 17-year-old boy, and he's like, oh, this is really nice. It drops and it shatters on the floor. And then you're left thinking, what was wrong with me? What did I do wrong? It's like, it has nothing to do with you. He was not in a place where he could actually cherish the heart of a teenage girl and court her to discernment of the sacrament of marriage. Like he was light years away from there. And then so she made a mistake in terms of the discernment process of probably jumping in too quick, too fast, maybe too physically, maybe too fast emotionally. Either way, she probably wasn't bouncing this off her real good girlfriends, her parents, her youth minister. What do you think about this guy? And no, it's more like he likes me, I like him, he smells good, let's see what happens. And then up like a rocket and then down like a rocket.
Yeah. Honestly, do any of you really think about this question? Obviously, you're not going to give us the answer, but really take to prayer and really think about the person you're with. Do you really think in high school that is going to be your forever person? Because 9 times out of 10, the 4 walls in your high school, you are going to go way and far beyond that. And you're never going to talk to some of these people again, ever again. And that also is an excuse to do a lot of stupid things because you're like, oh, I'll never see these people again. It doesn't matter. But it does. It really does matter. But I highly doubt in high school you are going to find that significant other. So it's better to get through the 4 years, and by the end of the 4 years, not be completely messed up like you've gone through like 10 divorces. It's better that you just go through the end of those 4 years and you make really good guy friends, really good girlfriends. You graduate together. And then when you come back home, you're not ashamed to see each other. You're actually wanting to see each other and have fun and see how things are going and go out and do things versus being ashamed and, oh, I hope I don't see that person while I'm going out here or there because you did some really stupid things with them, but really take to prayer and just think about, do I really think I'm going to marry the person I'm dating in high school? 9 times out of 10, you're not.
How do you raise your children to be good fathers and mothers / husbands and wives?
Well, I think it's kind of like what we said earlier, that your kids won't always obey you, but they'll never fail to imitate you. Yeah. And so if I want my kid to be humble, I can't really just give him like a humility book. Here's the humility curriculum. If I want my boys to be gentle with women, well, if I'm gentle with my wife and daughters, I would hope the boys would be able to pick it up along the way. And obviously there's catechesis and there's teaching and getting them in good schools and good youth groups and all that stuff. Yeah. But in the end, the family, according to the church, is the school of love. We're not only the principal educators of the kids, but we're supposed to be the principal evangelists of our children. And you do that by, the way that you live. Are they finding you in moments of prayer with God? Are they walking into seeing you on your cell phone and they can't see what you're looking at? It's like, wait a minute, do I have to slap my laptop shut? My 5-year-old girl comes in the room because she can't see what dad's seeing because I've got this pornography addiction and I'm living in this little silo. Kids pick up on that stuff, and I think
Yeah.
I thank God, I grew up with the pornography, and thanks be to God, was able to get rid of the junk when I was 18 years old. But I don't even know how I'd be able to attempt to spiritually lead my family towards purity if I couldn't lead myself there. That if I was still stuck in this addiction, like what type of priest, prophet, and king could I be to my kids if I can't manage my own spiritual house to begin with? And so I think it's really important that you have your own interior life as your primary and most important thing. Always be reading a good book, a good spiritual book, a life of a saint or this or that, and just pursue Christ with all your heart. The kids will see that, and that's going to mean more to them than anything you could possibly teach them. Because otherwise, imagine the opposite. A parent who's endlessly teaching and lecturing and explaining stuff, but they don't exemplify patience and love and forgiveness and mercy and purity. The kids will pick that stuff up. I'm corresponding now with a young woman who's really struggling with atheism, and her dad really, it was a real rough situation, very performance-based relationship with her dad, with a lot of rejection and abandonment stuff. And she sent me this big paragraph today just talking about, like, God isn't real. And even if he is real, like, he doesn't really love us. All he cares about is that we're perfect, and we're not perfect, that we're not worthy of his love and his attention and his affection and da-da-da. And I kind of cut and pasted her paragraph, and I said, I think it's really good that you're venting all this stuff, but I said, I want you to read your paragraph right now, and I want you to see how what you just described is how you see your earthly father. And that what's happening is you're projecting, as you should, your idea of the Heavenly Father based on your concept of the earthly father. Because the paragraph is everything that she's ever told me about her dad, but she just replaced the word God throughout the whole thing. Yeah. And so imagine if that father of hers was an image of the gentle Heavenly Father who has unconditional love for his daughter, who doesn't need to earn his approval. How natural and easy it would be for her to believe those things in God. But because she never saw it with her own eyes, it was so hard for her to believe it with her heart.
I would say learn to say you're sorry and own when you mess up. Just own it. Just don't ignore it. Just own it and apologize, because it matters. Because sometimes I've yelled or I've gotten mad or I've said things and I regret it. And I know it has hurt people in my family, and I've been in the wrong. Absolutely. Hands down, in the wrong. It's important they see you apologizing. And it's also important they see you owning what you did, because they'll go through life thinking they don't have to. They don't have to own anything. Why do I have to apologize for anything? I mean, they're literally going to imitate that. And so it's important that you learn to say, I am sorry, or it's important you learn to say, I messed up. And I know I messed up. I know I hurt your heart, and I apologize because I don't want you hurt. Because those things will fester and they will just build up and build up. And you don't want that resentment floating around your family, because it can literally destroy. It can absolutely destroy foundations of families.
Well, that was the last question. Do you guys have any follow-ups or add-ons to any of that you want to go through?
No.
Or any stuff they didn't ask? Because here's a good one.
Okay.
Here's a good one. I'll add this on, because this is a thing I've learned. What is a thing that young people high schoolers don't know they don't know about relationship, don't know to even ask? Like, they don't know that they don't know about relationships, dating, or chastity.
Is there a point to them right now anyway? I honestly am of the mindset that I don't think there's much of a point to high school dating. I mean, I had a parent just email me this last week asking about these, all these dating relationship questions with her 15-year-old child regarding another kid that was 13, another one that was 16, and all this drama. And it didn't even come up in her email that she thought it might not be a good idea for them to be dating at the age of 15. And I kind of said, like, all this stuff is irrelevant. There's no point for the kid to be dating at the age of 15. Like, that kid needs to be focused on his volleyball game and his math test and, maybe where he wants to go to college, his hobbies, sports. Like, a romantic relationship a decade before marriage, to me, is just barking up the wrong tree, because the foundation of romantic love, I always say, is friendship. So right now is the time to build that, to learn to relate to members of the opposite sex as friends without the romance. Because even if you find this awesome guy or girl, who cares, dude? She's going to Benedictine next year. You're going to Steubenville, or she's going to UCLA. You're going to LSU. What are you going to have, like some long distance 4-year relationship while they're meeting 30,000 college guys or girls? Like, I don't know. To me, it's not the most realistic thing. So I think a lot of times we're asking all these relationship questions without even realizing, should I be in one? in the first place?
If I could talk to my younger self back in high school, wow, the things I would say and the things I would not do. But if I could say one thing to those high school students listening right now, and I could talk to my younger self, it would be listen to that small, still voice. It is your compass to heaven. It will keep you out of so much trouble. It'll prevent you from making so many mistakes, just stupid mistakes that I made, that if I just would have listened, I wouldn't have made half of the mistakes that I did. And I always regretted it every single time. And I know I've said this several times on this podcast, but I will say it again. You hear that small, still voice. I don't care how drunk or how high I was or whatever dark hole I was in doing God knows what. I still heard the voice, that small, still voice saying, leave, don't do this. It's not worth it. You're going to regret it. And I just kept telling it to shut up, and I would do it anyway. And I would always regret it the next day, or I would always regret it hours later. Like, it's just never worth it, because God is trying to protect you, because he knows you're hurting yourself, and you may not know it at the time, because at the time it may be a lot of fun and may be very enticing. You don't want to be left out. You don't want people to make fun of you. You don't want to be the only one. Maybe you do, because others will follow. Maybe there are other people there too that don't want to engage in certain things, but they're too cowardly to stand up and walk out. But deep down, you hear that voice. And if you listen from now, I mean, just always, from now until you die, the day that you die, if you actually listen to that small, still voice and did everything that God was asking you to do, you'd be a force to be reckoned with for God. And who doesn't want to be that, right? But a lot of the times we don't want to listen. Even now, there's certain things I know I need to be doing. It's very difficult. But at the same time, I won't regret listening. And at the time, will it be hard? Yeah, it will. Sometimes it's awesome. I'm excited. I want to do what God's asking. And other times it's very difficult. But that's where it's like, do you have a backbone? Do you really believe in everything the Catholic Church teaches? Do you want to do the will of God and be that good Catholic that stands up for what's right, what's holy, what's good, what's true? Or do you only want to do it some of the time and you want to pick and choose and be that cafeteria Catholic? Everybody just has to decide where their faith is and where their people pleasing is, and draw a line in the sand. And so maybe just to listen. And I know it's kind of harsh what I said, but at the end of the day, if I could go back to my younger self and say all of those things and just say, just listen, so many things would be different right now. So I want to prevent that for you out there.
Yeah, someone once asked Mother Teresa, how do you become a saint? And she said, say yes to Jesus.
That's it.
That's it. There's nothing more to it.
That's right.
So, any other stuff, Josiah? I got a couple last announcements.
I don't have anything else in the document, so unless you guys have something else to add, go ahead on your announcements.
Yeah, just want to invite everybody. We got a new hike coming up at JP2 Trails. Bobby Angel is going to be leading a group of Catholic young adults with a priest, Father Sintra, off to the Channel Islands off the coast of Los Angeles, California. It's going to be early to mid-January, and there's still spots available on the trip. So if you like the great outdoors, you want to meet other Catholic single young adults, go to jp2trails.com and sign up. We also have other trips that you can sign up for, anywhere from Switzerland to France to Alaska to Italy, all kinds of exciting things. But California's a little bit closer, maybe perhaps a little bit more within the budget. So if you want to meet some other good Catholic single young adults and spend an awesome 3 days off the coast of California with Bobby Angel and an awesome priest, just go to jp2trails.com and sign up, or support us on Patreon if you would. If you got questions for future episodes, you can become a patron. Those questions get asked first. In the meantime, know that we will be praying for you guys.
Yes,
and please keep us in your prayers as well. Join us next Tuesday, 1 o'clock Eastern in the afternoon, so right after lunch, on XM Catholic Radio on the channel. So XM Sirius, the Catholic channel, be 10 o'clock Pacific time, 1 o'clock Eastern. It's a 1 hour live call-in show. Please give us a call. We look forward to talking to you next Tuesday, November 18th, 1 o'clock Eastern Standard.